Sorry. Okay. So yeah, we're going to be talking about colors and font combinations as a designer. So keep in mind, like that, this is like just meant to be like a basic introduction into the whole concept of colors and also typography. When I say typography and fonts, please don't be don't be confused. Actually, I'm trying to like use them to mean the same thing. Although if you go deeper, you probably see the difference between typography. Typography is like a what's it called, the course, and then font is like a unit in the course or something like that. Maybe use that simplistic what's it called description. So yeah, we're going to be talking about colors and typography and typography combination as a designer. But keep in mind that, like I said, it's meant to be like an introduction into the whole thing and the actual where what's it called. And I'm also going to be approaching like as a UI designer how I approach this particular what's it called area, this field of design as a UI or as a UI UX designer. So there's still like what's it called, lots more left to be explored, even personally. So yeah, just keep in mind that you this is like just meant to be like a springboard to that. So without much ado, we're just going to like jump into it. So basically, what we want to start with first is like the colors and sorry, the psychology of colors and fonts. So what exactly do colors and fonts? What exactly is their relevance in the whole what's it called? In generally, not even pertaining to design alone, like generally in the general sense of the word, what do colors and what's it called fonts make you as a person, make people feel? So ideally, colors and fonts actually do a couple of stuff. They evoke an emotional response. For example, if you were to, for example, in different cultures, although like it's culture, some of these things, some of these emotions are actually culture specific. But then, in a general sense, when anyone sees red, they mean everyone assumes red means danger. If you see red on the what's it called, on the traffic light, you mean it means stop. If you see what's it called, yeah, I mean it's so common that you have this thing called red flags. When you say, oh, what's your red flag in people? Red flag is meant to be like mean like it, red there is meant to be like, mean like what's it called bad thing, and then green flags means like what, oh, means like something that you actually approve of. So in that context, it colors actually like doing playing a emotional what's it called, an emotional role there, signifying what's it called, signifying an emotion which is hate or what's it called, hate or like green for like and then red for hate. So that's what it means when you say colors actually evoke emotional responses. And also, I mean, fonts do the same thing as well, but then fonts own is like a more muted form of emotional response. For example, serif fonts. So I'm going to introduce us into like serif fonts and some, but then serif fonts these are serif fonts. All these ones that have like all this, they call them ligatures, all these lines and extensions are called serif fonts. So they ideally are used for more what's it called, more formal listening. So ideally, if you were to see like a letter written in serif font, it's meant to mean like a very, very serious thing. Although mine is actually not serious, but then ideally it's meant that it's known that when serif fonts are being used, it's meant that that thing is meant to be like really, really serious. And then when sans serif fonts are being used, it's meant to be like a more informal kind of setting. So that's basically one thing you should know as well, which is why you have some more older books, those older generation books, you have them written in serif font. For example, some versions of the Bible, maybe like KJV or so, you've seen them written in this all these ligature fonts. So those scrolls from maybe movies, you see, they're always written in this what's it called, serif what's it called form. So that's for what's it called, fonts, and for how fonts and colors evoke emotional response. And also fonts and colors also communicate tone. So for example, like I said, if something is really serious, if something is like really serious, you have what's it called? You have the thing maybe represented like in a more serious color. For example, black. Black is like if what's it called? How could I even give an example? If, for example, you have letters. If I had these letters written in black, you actually have a more serious. You have a more, let me not call it serious. You have a more serious what's it called? You have a more serious attention to these letters written in black, rather than if I wrote them in maybe some like pink. If I wrote them in pink, to me, like I was trying to communicate them, or the tone was meant to be like really playful and just really cheerful. So black here is signifying the seriousness, and then maybe this a splash of color is meant to like signify like the playfulness or the warmth of this whole session thing. So that's how colors also communicate tone as well. Then fonts as well. If I were to use a multi-call, there's this font called Comic Sans. I don't even know if you've heard of it, but Comic Sans. If I were to use Comic Sans, probably means that this is like a very, very informal and what you call casual thing. In fact, Comic Sans is so hated in industry that what you call, people only really use it for when it's meant to like signify children. Like if you're trying to like, communicate with children, like a children brand or something, that's when you use a font like Comic Sans. So that's how fonts and colors also signify what you call communicate. So Fonts and colors also communicate feelings. So I had this example, why so blue. I don't know if you've heard that saying, why so blue. So blue in this context is maybe when you want to like talk to maybe someone's feeling sad. You're like, oh, why so blue? Like it's a saying, yeah, why so blue? So it's meant to blue here is meant to signify why are you feeling sad. So here blue is like connoting that feeling of sadness and everything. So if you've even seen this movie, Inside Out, I don't know if you've seen this Inside Out, it's a cartoon, but like all the emotions they actually have what's all the feelings and emotions there inside of that Inside Out movie have like different colors that pertain to them. For example, Joy has like this splash of gray and what's it called green that signifies like happiness, and some yellow and all those things. But while blue is like what's it called? Blue is blue. Sorry, sadness is blue, and then you have anger as red and all of that. So that's how fonts and colors like have a general sense of connoting what's it called connoting communicating feelings. So also, fonts and colors also influence how we perceive the world around us. I give an example by saying, okay, if you were at a traffic light and then traffic light is showing green, it means green means go, or it's showing red, red means stop. So that's how traffic light is multiple influencing how you as a person are perceiving the world. And also, fonts and colors also, like I said, that most of these things actually like colors actually like does it better when it comes to like communicating all these things. But then fonts also plays a role as well. So you can't separate them. What's it called? You can't separate them. So imagine I was using like what's it called red. I was using like red for my stuff to kind of communicate danger, and I'm writing it's like a what's it called like a how should I call those wedding fonts, those script fonts. So we're going to get to them in a moment. I'm going to show examples, but then I'm just like trying to give like and put examples, put scenarios in your mind so you can like, start thinking about how colors and fonts are doing all these things I'm mentioning now. So if I were to like what's it called? I want to write a what's it called a dangerous okay like oh help save our souls something like that and I want to write it like in this like fancy fonts like it's not going to really here now the font is like actually dulling the impact of my message. It's not really communicating the intention of my message. So that's how fonts like it does its own work in the background. While color does its own like in this loud format, font does its own in the background, but then it's equally as important as how you choose your color. So fonts and colors can also be used to express in what's it called intention. For example, if you heard this thing like white flag, so like if you've seen like some cartoons again or films, you see where maybe like a character doesn't want to fight anyone, then they raise up like a white flag to like, oh, I've given up and everything. So that's there. You're seeing the what's it called fonts signifying the intention of giving up. I don't want to fight anymore. I want us to make peace and everything. While the red flag signifies what's it called, we want to keep fighting one everything. Like I said, colors are these colors based on what they do, colors and fonts based on what they do. They actually like sorry uh culture also affects how this thing. So while you're still like learning all these things, try to know that it doesn't apply to every single culture. For example, red generally means like danger, but then if you actually go to if you go to China, red in China actually like signifies like happiness, like signifies like good things. It's like a good color. So you can't say okay, you are designing for a Nigerian audience, and then you're designing with red to signify danger. Then go to China as well, and then use red for to signify danger. So ideally, they communicate red in that cultural setting is meant to be like what's it called? It's meant to be like a color of happiness, a color of joy, a color of good tidings. So that's how colors are also what's it called? Culture specific. So let's move on. So I have an example here. So I have this one actually like inverted. So you have success. If you saw success here and then sorry, you're seeing success as red, it's not really it's not really correct. Like in this cultural setting, it's not really correct because ideally failed is meant to be what's it called? Failed is meant to like show red. Imagine you were trying to like send money to someone and then you send money and then showing you red and then sorry, you try to send money to someone with your banking app and then you send money and then shows you success in red color. You're going to be like there's going to be like this discomfort. Like you're going to because ideally you communicate red, you what's it called tag red as a color of failure. So ideally having success here tied with red and having failure failed state tied with green, it's not really how it should be because generally the human mind is already used to this color psychology of having red danger to be red associated with danger, failure, and all those things. While green should be associated with success instead. So that's basically how you have colors affecting your emotions. So here's how fonts does its own. So if I had what's it called, I will always find you like written in like this really nice font with a nice font with like heart and everything. You see how it's like it looks heartwarming. It looks like oh you like oh when you see this kind of thing. But then if you see this kind of font and someone like leaves this on a table with this message on the table with this kind of font, like I feel like you should be scared. Okay, I don't think it's time for questions now, but then we'll probably have a session for questions. So if you were to see like what's it called, I will always find you in this kind of font. Like you would be scared instantly because it has like this really scary feel. So this is how font is actually doing its own work of communicating what's it called, communicating intention. So you also see that even color here as well. Here, color is serving the what's it called purpose. The color red. The color red is already showing what's it called, showing like this hats. Oh, like this how should I put that? This intensity. Let me use the word intensity or romanticness. Yeah. Let me use romanticness, romanticity. I don't really know the word, but it's like it has this like romantic feel towards the red color here. But then, yeah, mine already goes to danger, blood, like wahala, problem, and everything like that. So like that's how fonts and colors work hand in hand to communicate intention. And also here as well, I'll be waiting for you. If you see this one, I don't think that you would want to be waiting for this kind of person that's waiting for you like this. But then if you see, I'll be waiting for you in this like really nice font with hearts and everything, and also red as well. You can see that you have like you will feel like really drawn towards this one. You want to wait for this kind of person that leaves this letter for you instead of this. I'll be waiting for you. So that's basically how fonts and colors do their job in trying to communicate message and intention as well. So I also have some examples of how what's it called fonts and colors are like fonts and colors are used across brands and brands and products in the real world. So you have kids. So for example, kids color. So you have when you have like when you're trying to design for like a kids related brand, you have all these like bursty colors. You have purple, you have yellow, like you have like lots of colors. When it comes to kids brands, people always like go overboard with colors. You can see here like there's tons of there's tons of colors bursting up and down. Micro Kids has green, has like multiple colors, and also the fonts that I use here, they are like always like really chunky. When I mean chunky, like they are big, they are thick, and they also like have this like really playful feel. There's no order to them; they're just like jumping all around the place. So this is like the font and the font and the color combination that all these all these brands employ to communicate like this is a kids brand, or this is like a vibrant brand. But then you have the color, this fashion brands. So you have fashion brands, you have Dior. And if you actually do your research and check about mostly all of them, they always like use black, and then they have all these serif fonts. So this is what I was talking about, serif and sans serif fonts. So I'm going to get to that in a moment. But then you see all these fonts that have all these ligatures. Are they called ligatures? All these extensions then to the letters, they are called serif fonts. It means that these are called serifs. And then the ones that do not have it, for example, these ones are called sans serif fonts. So ideally, when you come to fashion brands, you find them using more of sans serif fonts, serif fonts, and then you have them using like mostly black, and then even though not black exactly, they always like have this very muted they have this muted color palette, or this very restrained color palette, black and white, gray, and like all those like very, very mature colors. That's what they mostly use. And then they also use like this serif typography as well. So you have bank logos as well. So you have bank logos using serif fonts. These are sans serif fonts rather. I keep confusing them every now and then. So sans serif fonts feel more modern, they feel more friendly, and then which is why you actually have like banks and banks. You have banks and general most brands, most modern brands using sans serif fonts. Why all these fashion brands mostly use like serif fonts is because they are trying to like communicate like old like this they've been existing for a long time, so they want to communicate that message. And these fonts are actually like the earliest kind of serif fonts are actually the earliest kind of fonts, which is why you find old books written in serif fonts. So ideally, these modern brands mostly use like all these sans serif fonts. So sans means like without. So without this sans serif fonts do not have all the serifs. So which is why you have like modern brands using them. Burger King uses them. So but then what you will notice here is that the color style, the color palettes here. So ideally, in the general sense, blue is meant to communicate trust. Blue is meant to communicate trust. Which I have if you go and do your research, you have most fintech brands, go and check, you see that their colors are blue. Even my own company, I can't over their logo is blue. So ideally, blue has like this color, this feeling of trust and trust and stability to it, which is why I have most banks using it. You have Access Bank, you have Chase Bank, you have you have Keystone Bank as well. And most of other banks and fintech products, they always like use this really blue color. And then for for food brands, you have them like using more of red and also yellow as well to communicate like So ideally, red and yellow are meant to like can also communicate like this deliciousness. Let me use the word deliciousness. So when food that is if you saw two plates of food, and you saw one that was like plain gray, and then you saw like stew that was like actually like bubbling, like that had like this really red and intense color. You're going to like be drawn towards that. You think that that one that has that red stew is going to be sweeter than that one that has like what's it called? That just plain that's a pepper soup, that's just plain white. Because you feel like in your mind is already drawn to that what's it called, that brusty color, and feel that vibrant and brusty color, and that makes you feel like this one is actually sweeter than the one that doesn't have color. Which is why food brands employ like what's it called, this red and yellow in their what's it called, in their branding, just to show that what's it called, vibrantness and also deliciousness. So you have Burger King here. You also have Chicken Republic that uses that red and what's it called, uh, uh, red and yellow what's it called, color system. So I also like saved the example some other examples. So on wedding cards, you mostly have like all these these serif fonts, all these like handwritten. They call them handwritten fonts. You have all these handwritten fonts that like look like all these olden days fancy calligraphy fonts. So you have them always being paired with this gold. So check most of the wedding invitation you're going to see. You're always going to like see a splash of gold on them, because gold also like communicates like this yellowish gold communicates like this what's it called, sense of royalty, communicates this sense of beauty and elegance, which is also what all these what's it called, all these handwritten fonts also do as well. So that's just an example as well. And also for natural brands tend to like lean towards that green color, because green has like that what's it called, has that relation towards the earth, and also what's it called, natural plants and all of that, which is why you have most natural brands like using this green color and everything. So that's just by the wayside. Although this one typography does not really, I'm not really focused on typography for this particular one, but that's just like by the wayside. So for what's it called, color theory concept, all this I'm not really going to delve into them too deep, because all these what's it called, all these color theories are things that you don't necessarily have to like know, to like, you don't have to like know them, say okay, I can tell you exactly what's it called, what each all these color concepts are, but you just have to internalize them. It's just something you just internalize, and you just find yourself using them. So it doesn't like you have to like know them word for word how they are described. So hue, basically all this, any color. So any color is basically a hue. So red is a hue, yellow is a hue. So basically the actual color is called hue as well. Then saturation is the brightness or darkness of what's it called, the intensity. I think that's the word. The intensity of what's it called, of that particular color. So if you have what's it called, red, I don't have an example to show right now, but then I think I can use this. I think so. The intensity of a color is actually the saturation of it, and then so all these concepts, if I get the definition wrong, that's totally fine, because like I said, it's not something you necessarily need to like know word for word. It's just something you need to internalize or just be familiar with, and just move on from it. So saturation is actually intensity of it, and then lightness is also like the amount of what's it called, the amount of light or dark be added to it. So here you have under this lightness, you have, I think you have a what's it called, you have a tint and shade. Yeah, so tint and shade. So the tint and shade is the tints of a color is when you add white. So if you add keep adding white to what's it called, to red, and keep making like a lighter shade of red, it's going to, sorry, 1 second. So the more you keep adding what's it called, white to a particular color, the more tints you get from that particular color, and then the more you keep adding black to that particular color, the more you keep getting what's it called, shades of that particular color. So that's that. So for color schemes, they're what's it called, their concepts are called color schemes. So analogous color schemes, complementary color schemes, triadic color schemes. So complementary, if you look at the color wheel, you have like colors that sit opposite each other. So these ones that sit opposite each other are called complementary. They complement each other. And then analogous are the three colors on the color wheel that are beside them, closely beside each other. So if you use this one on a project, they actually have like what's it called, this analogous relationship towards each other. Then split complementary is also these ones that are like facing, that are cross, that when you cross, like when you draw like a cross on your a cross on your color wheel, you're going to like have what's it called, colors. The colors that you select are going to be what's it called, complementing each other on a split format. Then triadic are also the ones that have that intersecting in a triadic format. So basically all these things are just like what's it called, I just mumbo jumbo, and you don't really necessarily have to like know them like intensely. Although maybe if you were to look like the branching to maybe like a more artistic sector of aspect of design, you probably have to like internalize all these things and everything. But then for the line of work I do, like it's not really necessary that you really fully know them. Just study them, and that's going to be enough. So color usage in UI. So when I'm trying to, so how do I use colors when I'm trying to like design interfaces? So ideally, when you're trying to design interfaces, there are actually colors you actually must what's it called? There are color, there's a set of colors you must define before you can start any project. So you must define your primary colors. That's normal. So primary colors, ideally, are always the brand colors because as a UI designer, you're not going to be the one in charge of designing the brands, the what's it called, the brand logo. Ideally, but in my company, you can actually it actually intersects. But for most cases, you are not the one that's supposed to design the logo. The brand designer or the logo and what's it called logo designer or the graphics are supposed to be the one that's supposed to define the company's what's it called the company's brand colors and everything. So what I do is that I use the brand colors as my primary color. So if I was working in maybe UBA Bank, their color, their brand color is mostly is red. So ideally that's going to be my primary color for my design. And then my secondary color is just going to be like what's it called a color that I find the brand using a lot. So ideally, most times the brand designer has already defined all the secondary colors are going to be. So I just take those into my design as well. Or if they've not designed them, what's it called? They've not defined what they're going to be. I can probably go to my color wheel and probably pick what like a complementary color or an analogous one that what's it called best matches my what's it called that best matches my brand color or my primary color. So I'm just going to go with that, either my complementary color. So this way the whole complementary analogous thing on the color wheel comes into place. I can most times I think I go to pick like an analogous one that's still on that what's it called that's still closest to my brand color. So it looks alike somehow. It has like this color and this harmonious relationship. So that's something I do to get my secondary color. Then my grades. So your grades, I did what you when you're designing for like an interface, you must have like what they call grades. So for cases like for example, if you were to be typing, if you created like a form field, I want to type in that form field. Most time, once you click the form field, ideally you want to like give the user a feedback that okay, you know what, this form field is selected. So most times you must use like a grade to communicate that to have that background color. So grades mostly are for mostly background colors, for strokes, and for like different what's it called elements in your design you're going to. So ideally, what you're supposed to do is just to like create like a couple of grades. It doesn't have to. Most times, what I do to create my grades is that I go and select my brand color, especially if my brand color is actually what's it called. My brand color is actually blue. So I'm just going to like quickly jump into Figma and show like a small example of what I actually mean. So if I had a brand color like let's say blue, okay. So this blue, and I want to select this is my primary color, and I want to select my grades. What I do personally, although there are tools that can actually help you with these things. So I'm going to show them, but I want to show how I do it manually first before I actually go into like the automated method of doing it. So if I want to select my grades for this particular color, what I do is I click on the color wheel, and then I drag my mouse. I drag the what's it called the colors picker, the color this thing I don't know what it's called. So drag it to the gray section, so that in this case it's gray, but then it still has like what's it called some tint of this primary color inside of it. So I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but then it still has like some tint of this what's it called primary color in my gray. So I'm not just going to select it. I'm just choosing to red. I'm going to select it and what's it called red. It's not going to like look harmonious when I actually implement it inside of my design. So what I want to do is still have some bits of my brand color inside of even though I'm selecting gray, I still want to have some bits of my brand color inside of it. So that's something I do as well. And then what I can actually do to generate more is that I run this ideally. The manual method, like I said, the manual method is just for you to go to this section. So let me select this one. Okay, select the gray, and then the manual method to have more grades, because for your design you might need like what's it called a couple of from let's say 5 grades, 5 versions. So from darkest gray to like lightest and gray, you're going to like need a couple of that. So what I do is I just duplicate it downwards, and then I just like what's it called I just drag it upwards. So you just drag the tool upwards, and then I just keep dragging upward like that. Although there are simpler methods to do this thing, but like this is just the manual method, so you can actually get familiar with it. And then before you move to, it's important for you to like know how it's done traditionally first before you move to like automating it. So I'm just going to just keep moving into until I have like what's it called like five of what's it called this kind of grades, and that's basically how it's going to. These are the grades that are going to serve me for my design. Like I said, most times where you're going to like get to really use these grades when it comes to like using them, maybe creating like a background and stuff like that, or making adding strokes to your design. So that's where all these grades really come into play. Another tool to really help you with this automation is actually tints and shades. So if you go on Figma community, just search for tints and shades things and share. I'm going to share. I'm going to get to it. It's in my resources section. So I'm going to share. Maybe I'm going to share with the organizers so they can share with you as well. So that's how I get my grades. So semantic colors here are what you call colors that used to communicate a state. So what I mean by semantic colors here, don't let you confuse it, are basically red, yellow, and green. So you see how in traffic lights, traffic light has semantic colors of red, yellow, and green. So that red, yellow, and green is to communicate stop, start, and what's it called, stop, get ready, and then go. So for design here, it's meant to communicate. Semantic colors are meant to communicate what's it called, communicate danger. So warning, not danger, warning. So warning or danger, either ways. So warning and warning. Yeah, warning is always what's it called? Warning is always yellow. And then warning is not always yellow. It's either warning is either yellow or orange most times. And then red is also always meant to like use for error states, while you have green for success states. So ideally, I want to like show a trick I normally use when I'm trying to like create what's it called? Select my red. So ideally, you can see that I'm not just randomly selecting like any kind of green. I make sure that when I want to select this green, I make sure that I selected my brand color first, and then I moved it to the gray section of that brand color to have added like what's it called saturation to it, to desaturate the color, make it like gray. So that's how I got my. So what I'm going to do now to get my what's it called, my semantic colors as well, which is my red, green, and blue. One trick I do is that I select the brand color as well, select brand color, and then on this hue slider. So this is called the hue slider. So I just slide it from here. So I don't change. You can see I'm not tampering here. I just slide it to red. So I want to get my red. I just slide it to red. So like this now, I already have a red that's similar to what's it called. That's on the same color family, on the same what's it called color scale as my brand. This is my brand color. So I have a red that's on the same color scale. Although if you were me, probably still you are still allowed some freedom to actually like tweak the color and everything. So you can still tweak some, maybe move it a bit, but move it around a bit, because maybe this red, you feel like the red is too cheerful. It feels more of what's called peach than red. So you're going to like you can still move it around a bit, but they don't take it too far. Don't move it like, because like this now you can see like this red feels different, just feels different from this. So if I were to put them together, it's not really going to match as well as if I pick a color that was on the same color scale as it. So I'm just going to have to select a red that's on the same color scale. Like I said, select the brand color and move it to red, and then you have your what's it called? You have your red for error states, and then to create your color for your warning states, yeah, which is the yellow or orange. Just still select the red or the brand color and then slide it to the yellow section. So slide to the yellow section. So most of the time I like using orange for my warning states. I like using orange personally. So you can use yellow or orange, because I feel like orange like has like this. Orange does not have visibility problems. Sometimes yellow always like runs into like visibility issue, which is why I always prefer using orange instead. So orange, and then I also slide to create my what's it called, to create my success states, which is my success semantic color for success. I slide it to green as well, and like this you have all these harmonious colors that are born from the same color palette. Like this doesn't feel out of place at all. But then if you were to just be jumping around, because that's how I used to do when I started design. I used to just jump around, just move around, like, oh, I want to pick green. So I just move around and just pick any kind of green, and like I just like pick colors based on vibes and inshallah. But then currently, if you actually use this method, it's going to like give you a more harmonious and multi-code color system. So that's how I basically do when it comes to picking my semantic color. So you have like a small insight as to how you pick primary colors, secondary colors, and also grays and also semantic colors. So with that out of the way, there are also a couple of tools to help you with what's it called, selecting with colors and also their functions. There's colors.adobe.com. You can go on colors.adobe.com just to help you if you want to select what's it called. If you don't really know how to like select, maybe you want to select a complementary color, you can go on colors.adobe.com and then just insert your color palette there. So we have to, let me quickly show how it's done. So colors, okay, colors.adobe.com. So if I had like this color now, and I want a complementary color of it, so I'm just going to copy it now. Copy the color. I'm going to copy the color code, and then I'm going to open colors.adobe.com. Open. Okay, so 1 second. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just to paste it. Ideally, the way it shows you like this interface, and then you can just copy it. You can just paste your color code here, or by default it has a color there already. So you can just paste your own color code here and press enter. So you can see like this has generated what's it called different what's it called, generated an analogous color system for me. So I can also switch to monochromatic, I can switch to triadic, and I can also switch to whatever. So if I wanted a complementary color for my brand, maybe I was trying to I had this color given to me as my brand color, and I want to use my primary color, and I don't have a complementary color for it. I can just go to colors, paste the color code in colors.adobe.com, and then pick a complementary color from the list. So I paste the color code in and then go to complementary. So I cannot pick maybe this. I cannot pick maybe like what's it called? This one. This what's it called? This yellow to be my complementary color, depending on what you want. Or if you go to analogous, like I said, I used to prefer choosing an analogous color for my analogous color for my complementary color. So I can just go here and then pick this particular color and use it for my complementary color. So I'm just going to duplicate it and paste here. So I'm just going to use one. I will personally use one as my maybe as my what's it called, as my complementary color, as my secondary color. So that's how I deal with colors when I'm designing for designing interfaces. So there's also Kulos.co, there's Canva.com, there's Tints and Shades. Tints and Shades is a Figma plugin. I normally use it to create like create like a tints and shades of my gray. So if I had this gray like that, I just go to Tints and Shades. So sorry, one second. I'm just showing like, because all these things are actually hands. If I were to just freestyle and just do it, you're not going to really get the hang of how it's done. So Tints and Shades, let's run it. So I'll just run it, and then I will have like a yeah, you can see that it gave me like multiple variations, like just give me like from darkest to lighter version. So like this, I already have my gray sorted out. I don't have to like do this manual method, although you can do this manual method, but then Tints and Shades like it does it with a more algorithmic calculation. So most time I prefer going for what Tints and Shades gives to me. So that's how it's done with Tints and Shades and with colors.adobe.com. So the rest you can try them out for yourself. And then the manual method, which I just showed how to do that. So so to fonts, when it comes to fonts, you have serif fonts, you have sans serif fonts, and then like I said, serif fonts are the ones that have all these ligatures. You have them like this, and then sans serif fonts are the ones that do not have any ligatures. They are more modern, and they have what's it called. They are seen as more modern and also clean and also straightforward. Most designs use this, like for the sake of for the sake of UI UX design. If you're trying to like go into your design space, I would advise you to stick to sans serif fonts. There's tons of them. Except you are like actually creative and know how to like mix them, which is why I'm using like this really fancy serif. So this is serif font. I'm using this serif font. So serif fonts are decorative lines within the and they are perceived as like I said traditional. Originally, fonts started out as being serif fonts, and then they moved on to sans serif. So they are serif fonts are perceived as traditional, reliable, and also as formal. Then you have script fonts. Script fonts are all these ones that are used for weddings. So those really fancy cursive that looks like handwriting. They have handwriting fonts that look like more handwriting. You can actually explore this one. But like I said, for the sake of UI design, if you're trying to go to that line, stick to sans serif fonts and also serif fonts. Mostly sans serif fonts. I barely, if not because of this particular font I barely use serif fonts in my design. So try to stick to sans serif fonts, except when the occasion calls for you using another kind of font. So that's basically the kind of fonts you have. So example of great sans serif fonts are Inter, Poppins, DM Sans. So like all these ones are a list of really good ones. So in case you need this, like I said, I'm going to share this slide with the rest of the organizer so they can share across to you guys in case you want to like go through the thing. So you have Inter, Poppins. So in case of anytime you're confused as to what kind of sans serif fonts to use, always fall back on this. You can actually fall back on this one. Inter, Poppins, DM Sans, Helvetica, Molish, and again, there are most of them. I think all of them I have on this list are actually free for you, so you don't have to go and start jumping about them. Try to start finding illegal sites to download them or anything. So these are really good fonts I always fall back on and try to like use in my design. So tools to help with great font choice and pairing. Fontpair.com, typeof.com, fonts.google.com. So in case if you want to pair fonts, so if you want to pair fonts, if you want to pair fonts, some people have like issues with that. So people have issues with knowing what font goes with what font. For example, if I were to use let's use this one here. If I were to use this font here, like it won't look as nearly as good as what I just had, or as nearly as cohesive. Let me use that word cohesive. It won't look like they fit together if I was pairing this fonts together. So ideally, the best way to pair fonts, the best formula to pair fonts is to pair serif fonts with sans serif fonts, and to use the serif font as the heading, and then these fonts that have all these ligatures are called serif fonts. So to use these these serif fonts as headings, and then use the sans serif fonts for the body text. So it just works that way. I can't explain why. It just works. And just because I feel like sans serif fonts, which is these fonts that have this stuff, are harder for you to read. So it's harder for you to. It's going to be harder. You're going to spend more time as a person trying to read this font than if you were to be giving all these serif fonts, which is why serif fonts are best for headings, and then sans serif fonts are best for body text or for long text that tend to be like really, really long. So imagine all this text was written in like this sans serif font. So this is a serif font. So if I had the text written like this, you're not going to enjoy this this session at all. You're going to be spending all your time trying to read what this text is saying. So you don't want to do that. You want to actually pair fonts. So fonts like tools that can actually help you with pairing fonts. In case you don't know how to pair, you can go to fontspair.com. So fontspair.com even has a Figma plugin. Just check here. Let's check here. FontSpair. Although I've never used it myself before because I kind of am familiar with knowing how to pair fonts. So let's try to pair something quickly. Let's try to pair. So I'm just going to select select the heading. Let's select Garamond. So Garamond, you're going to see you're going to just see how it's going to pair, how it's going to really pair here. Or you can go and explore more. I'm not really familiar with this plugin because I've never used it myself. But then you can go online, just check for fontspairing.com. Font pairing, just search for Google font pairing or best fonts to pair together in here. Best fonts to pair together. You're going to find stuff on that. But like I said, for the sake of design, for the sake of UI design, stick to using sans serif fonts, which is all these clean fonts. You have a couple of ones I just listed: Inter, Poppins, DM Sans, and the rest. So general fonts, general fonts rules and guidelines, general ways to pair fonts and colors. So now I'm bringing the whole thing together. Before I was like teaching them separately, but then I'm like bringing it together now as to how to pair fonts and pair fonts and colors together. So decide on the design direction before you go ahead to before you go ahead deciding what fonts and colors. Before you decide on what fonts and colors you want to use first, you have to decide a design direction you want to go for, because design directions are what really define what kind of fonts you want to font and colors you want to. For example, imagine you just went ahead to use this font for you went ahead to go and use. Let's just quickly do let's quickly do an example. You went ahead to use this font for a design, and then you did not ask, like you didn't decide on the direction you want to do it, and then you went ahead to use this font for your design, and then the stakeholder comes out and say, oh, it's for a children's brand. You're going to feel disappointed because ideally you went to go and use this font and then make it black and you go and use it for the design, and then they tell you, oh no, it's for a children's brand. So you're going to have to do jumping about just to have to restructure your design to suit the children, because ideally this does not work for the children. This does not work. There's no way in this life where this works for a children's brand. Where this type this black color, and also these fonts that you're using works for the children brand. So you have to fall back to the basics and start deciding on what colors you're going to use for the children brand, and also what font you're going to be using. So decide on a design direction or a style before you go ahead with deciding one font. So if you're designing, I'm bringing this example now to UI design. If you're depending on what kind of design, if you're designing for a fashion brand, you know that for a fashion brand, I'm going to be using more of serif font. So you want to start exploring different kind of serif fonts you're going to be using in your design. But if you're designing for a fintech, you're going to have to stick to you're going to have to stick to sans serif fonts, because fintechs are mostly based on what focus on clarity and conciseness. So you have to go for a font that communicates that well enough. So you have to decide in that direction before you choose colors and also choose fonts as well. Do not use more than 2 fonts per project. So if you notice, the fonts have been repeating since have been this font has header, and then this font has body. If I start adding more fonts, and maybe I duplicated this and then had this one as as Gajugi. Let's do this one. It's just going to look out of place. There are people that can actually mix more than 2 fonts, but as a general rule, try to stick to 2 fonts per project. Use one and use them properly. Use one. If you're using one for the header, stick to that one for the header. If you're using one for the body, stick to one for the body. Don't go and start switching. Imagine I was changing. Imagine I was changing this in the course of this presentation. I had this I had this body text as this font. It's going to look out of place, because the rest I've been having this one as this font, the header as this font, and then the body as this font. So it's going to look at the show. Do not use more than 2 fonts per project, and stick to have a sense of order when you have a sense of where you're going to be using them when you're trying to use them in a project. So show restraint in color use. So don't just start applying colors everywhere and anywhere. Try to show restraint. So you can see. So this is what brings me to my second point, which is use white a lot. So you can see that in this design, even though this is actually color, I'm actually using the color here, a bluish color, a bluish kind of color. Even this at the beginning, I think I actually call at the beginning, but I'm not going to jump there now. So I try to show restraint, use lots of white space. So the best way to actually like draw emphasis to your color, to your color use is actually to use like lots of white. White allows your color shine. It actually allows your color shine a lot. So try to show restraint and also use white a lot in your design. So avoid script fonts. Like I said, avoid script fonts in UI design. Generally, I don't use what's it called. I don't use script fonts. So script fonts are those wedding kind of fonts. Don't use those kind of fonts in UI design. I've never seen it being used for. Even I've seen it being used. It's only for creative projects. That's when you can actually break the box. But then generally, don't use script fonts for projects, except you're actually a pro. So also generate fonts from image when you can. So when I mean generate fonts from image, so imagine you had you had a so for this particular DM. So for this particular color I'm using, this particular colors I'm using, so this red, this peach color, and also this blue I'm using, I actually generated from this image. So I did not have to go and start thinking of what colors I'm going to do. I already had this image I want to use as my poster, as my major image. So I just went ahead to just select these brand colors from there. So that's one thing you should do as well. Use your image to select colors. Learn how to create harmonious color palettes. I already showed that, how to do that with the whole color generator thing. So this thing is how to create harmonious color palettes. In doubt of what font to use, always use Inter. So that's basically that. I'm just going to like show examples of different poster colors. So these are artistic directors. So if I want to go for, for this design, I want to go for like a brutalist. These are called brutalist design. So if I want to go for a brutalist design, I go on internet and search for brutalist design. So for brutalist designs, you always see like they always use like this really chunky typography, this really big thick text. So you have music world, and also the colors are also like this acid green, or this if they're not what you call acid based color. These colors are called acid based color. Like this green is called acid green. And if they're not acid based, they're either what you call this muted color palette. So every design style or every design direction has like a color, like they have a color palette, and they also have a what's it called font system attached to them already. So always go ahead and do research to find out what kind of colors, the design style you're trying to replicate, and also what kind of colors and fonts you're going to be using for that particular project. So this is called Y2K style. So this is called Y2K style. I don't really know what Y2K means, but then Y2K style basically use like all these like really retro. They call them retro fonts. They use retro fonts, and then they use gradients a lot. So that's another thing as well. So this is called Bauhaus style. Bauhaus style uses like what's it called primary colors: red, green, red, green, blue, green, red. So they basically use blue, green, and then also other muted colors palettes as well. And they also like really use tall fonts called Bebas. It's called Bebas. Bebas is mostly used for what's it called. So try to explore different styles, and also learn from learn from their color and font usage. So how to improve? Study and research. So like I said, study and research, study styles, study different styles, and see the fonts and colors that they mostly using them, and also try to like copy them as well. So copy and steal like an artist, the second one. So copy a lot. Don't be ashamed. As a designer, you must copy. Every designer copies. There's no designer that don't know. Even the best ones copy. So copy. But as long as you're copying and you don't go and say, oh, this is my work. If you're copying someone, say you're copying someone, don't go and say, okay, you know what? I came up with this original idea. So that's that, by the way. So also design. There's no way for you to get better if you don't design. So keep designing, and I feel, and that's how you get better. Keep making mistakes. You have to design a lot of bad designs, but you can actually design good design. So try to design, even though you're designing rubbish. Just keep designing, and then eventually good designs are going to come out. So that's basically, I think that's all the speaking time I have. I'll be able to like really cover enough ground. So all these ones are also resources. I'm going to share with the rest, and then they're going to like share I'm going to share with the what's it called, organizer. They're going to share with you guys, so you can go through if you want to. Okay. The message.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was explosive. Thank you very much. So guys, if you have questions, you drop your questions on the chat box, and we'll take them one after the other. After this, we'll take all your questions. So you're probably wondering, how do you go from here? Where do you start learning from? How do you